Hello and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Mario Scavello, and my guests today are Nina Woodling from Monroe County and Eileen Miller. And first I'm going to start with you, Nina, because myself and you go back a long time. All the different things that you do for Monroe County to help kids, and to give a little background on the program that you do.
Well, 26 years ago, our program started with the promotion of seatbelt usage. And after 18 months, we were going to look for another job because it was a grant for just 18 months. But it was successful. All the counties were able to then go on with automobile, bicycle, DUI, school bus, pedestrian, motorcycle safety programs, as well as child passenger safety. So over the past 26 years, we've been doing those programs. I have to say that now I probably focus most of my time on child passenger safety, getting car seats to families who are in need, distracted driving, DUI, and anything that anybody asks me to do.
I know I met you before I was county commissioner through my daughter's program.
That's
because
right.
She was doing the DEER program, and you were involved with that. You used to bring the kids to the school.
That's right.
I mean, from the school to the commissioner's meetings, right?
It was SAD. She was in SAD.
SAD.
And she was amazing.
Yeah.
And those were the years that, yes, we were able to do so much.
Yeah.
We had great funding, and we could really work with the SAD chapters, and we still do.
Yeah. Before cell phones at the proms, they put quarters on each, and call someone if you know, rather than drive.
That's right. That's right. Call home before you get in a vehicle and drive home, especially if you've been drinking.
And also, you're involved in Safe 80 as well. I know that you've come to all the meetings, and because you're concerned about safety and continue to, you know, it's such an important part of our lives. You know, you're in the vehicle probably many more times than they're not in a vehicle.
Absolutely.
And with all the traffic and the traffic miles that people put onto vehicles, and the distractions that are there.
Mm-hmm. It's true. We tend to make our vehicles mini offices now.
Yeah.
To save time, phone calls are made, not realizing that texting a message, it can take more than 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds, and your eyes are not on the road. Now, if I said to you, Mario, let's put you on Route 80 and blindfold you and drive for about 5, 6, 7 seconds without seeing it all, nobody would want to do that. And yet we're doing that every day when we're texting on the phone.
Yeah. I have a new. I text while I drive. My wife does.
Perfect.
My wife is in this. I have a designated textee.
That's right. That's my new program.
And it works. It works. She's a much quicker texter, also.
Yes, that's perfect. And that's what we want people to do.
Yeah. Right. So, because if I get a phone call, she holds the phone. She won't let me hold it. By the way,
for her.
She's got a new. And now it's hands-free and all that stuff.
Yes.
So.
And it's interesting. We're not asking people to do more while they drive. We're asking them to do less and pay attention. As Eileen always says, eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, and mind on the task.
All right, that's a great way of bringing Eileen into the conversation. Eileen, I think we met about 2.5 years ago.
It will be 4 years, July 5th.
But we didn't meet right away. We met about, was it 2.5, 3 years?
Paul got killed on July 5th, 2010, and immediately after that, I joined the Safe 80 Task Force.
Okay.
I called right away. The Pocono Record had their safety program, and I jumped on immediately after that. And that's when I also met her, and that's when she was running the program. But I came in immediately on the bandwagon. You had a meeting in September, and that's when I met the both of you. And unfortunately, Paul was killed by a distracted driver. He was on Route 33, and a tractor trailer was going 69 in the 45-mile construction zone, which they were working on. Route 33, and he was too busy distracted. For 4 miles, he was swerving back and forth and in and out of lanes, and he crossed over and killed my son head on. And I'm living this horrible nightmare. And since then, I'm on the bandwagon of the no cell and the distracted driving cause. And it's been a very rough road. You don't want to ever see your son at a morgue. I had 2 state troopers knock on the door and tell me that my son was killed he was in a crash, and not until later that you're going through the court system and that you realize that it's a distracted driving, not at that moment. And that's what I'm now trying to tell people, that not until then. I have the road crash fatality report, and nowhere listed on here does it have a cell phone, does it say, you know, any of the technology. So my son is just listed as a fatality. He's not listed in the distracted driving crash. And so when they say 5,500 people die a year, that's not true. Those statistics are not true. And I meet people every day. I travel nationally and I talk about people. I go from state to state when they have a summit, and we're trying to get, you know, the hands-free. And let me make something clear. Hands-free is better, like we say, eyes on the road, hands on the wheel, mind at task. But in your brain is where you're distracted. Hands-free is much better. You want those both hands on the wheel, but when you're driving, it is clearly 100% that your mind has to be what you're supposed to be doing. And that's where the problem is with distracted driving.
You know that there's so many distractions in that vehicle, and cell phones just puts it right up on top of everything else. So you consider the changing a radio station, trying to put a DVD in to play a something. Or,
right. Your children.
Yeah, children.
Somebody sitting next to you.
And now we're going to add a cell phone to this. I actually saw someone driving back from my daughter's in D.C. had a spaghetti plate on the steering wheel and is eating while she's driving.
Do you know, just on the way down, I saw somebody with the laptop pressed to their computer, an iTab.
Right on
the steering wheel on the way down this morning, just coming to you. Yeah. And you could tell because the car is going back and forth. Yeah. So, you know, every 30 seconds in the USA today, somebody is either on their cell phone, either texting or talking. Every 30 seconds.
660,000 people at any moment are on their cell phones in the United States.
Today, right.
At any moment.
In the old days, maybe 10,000 were looking for a payphone. Right. Now everybody, it's amazing.
We've come so
today.
far from the
It is such, it's so amazing.
And it's not a matter of if it's going to happen that you're going to lose a loved one, it's when it's going to happen. Yeah. And I am that person that knows 100% that it's going to happen. And, you know, I don't come out to talk about this because I want to. My child is never coming home. I do this because you have children, you have grandchildren, you have children, you have grandchildren. I don't want this to happen to you. It's not an easy thing for me to do. Absolutely. But I want people to know 100% this is going to happen to you and your family. It's an addiction. Every time people hear that ping, they want to keep grabbing and grabbing for it. They feel that they have to have it. So I'm here to tell you, please shut your phones off. You know, you don't have to have it, and it's all electronic devices. Yeah. You know, today even the automotive industry, they're making it that it's right on their dashes now. You know, now Google is coming out with the glasses, you know, to have them on behind the wheel. It's all distractions. It's all electronic devices. But right now, the cell phone is the main thing. It's all distractions. But with that being said, you know, I'm just telling everybody, I'm begging you, please, there's no cell phone, there's no text, there's no email, there's nothing that important than a life. Nothing that important than a life.
For years we've been saying every person has an 85% chance of having being in a life-threatening, serious crash in your lifetime. And that was before cell phones became so popular. So that percentage rate is extremely high now.
You know, unfortunately, I've seen some kids lately, you know, with the texting. Yeah, and
it's a matter of the way they live.
Kids,
they never think it's going to happen to them. They never think. Every family that I've met and everybody that I know, whether it was their child on the cell phone or somebody else's, not one of them said, "Oh, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it." They all thought they could all multitask. They all thought, you know, they could do it. Their daughters or their sons were the top of cheerleading, the best of honors. They were all the greatest of everything, and they all thought it would never be them.
I think it's a good segue here. We're going to go into about a 15-minute or so show, texting while driving.
Great.
And what it does is it really shows the, you know, how quickly it can happen. That you take your eyes off that road and you're traveling at a certain speed, and so we're gonna go to that, and then we'll come back.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was really something back there. Did you see it? Both drivers dead. Middle-aged man, young woman in her early 20s. Her whole life in front of her. Not anymore. I just wanted to watch for a minute. I suppose you could say it's my ego, admiring my work, you know? You see, I was in both of those vehicles right up until the brakes locked up. I'm all the things that people do or think about doing when what they ought to be doing is driving. I'm your cell phone. I'm your MP3 player. I'm the quick glance into your briefcase or your purse. I'm every distraction, every stray thought, every momentary glance away from the road. I'm all those things, and I'm riding along in almost every car and truck on the road nowadays. I'm sitting inside the thing from the moment you buy it. Standard equipment, like airbags. I ride along with practically every one of you, almost every day, helping the law of averages catch up to people like those two. That's all it is, the law of averages, playing the odds. After all, every time you let me distract you, you're playing a percentages game. And the percentages always catch up with you sooner or later. Ask anyone who ever stayed in a casino for just one more hand. I've got to admit, that is one of my better efforts. Not just because of the immediate loss of life and property, although that is a respectable bit of damage, but it's not even over yet. Look back there. See how the police have the lane blocked? They're steering all the traffic around it. Every one of those drivers is looking over at the wreck. Who wouldn't, right? They're not watching the policeman or, you know, the road. They're too distracted. I'm very proud of that. But hey, I shouldn't take all the credit. Most of it belongs to our two drivers. That little car right there, the driver's name was Allison Reese. Allison was 21 years old. Good kid, sweet kid. Her folks didn't have the money for her to go away to college, so she was in her second year at the local community college, studying business. She also worked about 30 hours a week at the local pharmacy. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she would babysit her twin cousins while her aunt was at work. Still living at home? Well, she was. Right about now, her parents are answering the door. Police officer asking if he can come inside for a minute. After all sorts of people suffer from any automobile accident, whether they were in the car or not. The other one was Oscar Thompson, 58 years old, technician for Fabtech Industries. Goes from plant to plant checking the equipment, inspections, calibrations, that kind of thing. Worked a lot of double shifts, especially late shifts. You know, times when the equipment can be down for a little while. Lived alone, except for a little dog he took in a couple years ago. Beagle mix named Wally. In a little while, Wally is gonna start wondering when someone is gonna feed him. Oscar and Allison were both busy people. My favorite kind. You see, the busier someone is, the more often I get to ride with them. And this is a great time in history for me. You know, 50 years ago, I didn't ride with as many of you. Fewer cars, shorter trips, and nowhere near as much to think about. Sure, maybe a car had a radio. And yeah, sometimes I could talk someone into not paying attention while looking for an address. But nothing like nowadays. So many more cars, so many more interesting distractions inside the cars. My work gets easier every year. And I rode with Allison and Oscar almost every day, reminding them of all the things they needed to do. And today was no different. Here, I'll show you. Let's turn back the clock to earlier today. Okay, right now Allison has just finished her hours at the pharmacy. She's got a couple errands to run before her nighttime accounting class. Her boss kept her working a few minutes late to double-check some inventory paperwork. She knew she wasn't gonna have much time to make it to class, but she didn't complain. Remember I told you, she's a good kid. Hey, Allison, you know how your teacher is about latecomers? You better hurry. Come on, go around this guy. Good. Now, what are the 3 formulas you're supposed to have memorized for tonight? Do you know them?
Total compensation equals C, times total number of man-hours worked equals W, time... or something like that.
You see? It's so easy. Too much for her to think about, too little time to get it all done. Rush, rush, rush. You people make it so easy for me to get into the car with you. The thing is, you never realize how lucky you are most of the time. You have no idea how demanding driving a 1-ton vehicle at a mile a minute is. Do you know that every 2 miles, the average driver makes about 400 observations and makes about 40 different decisions based on those observations? And for about every 40 decisions, they make a mistake. They usually don't even recognize their mistake because it usually doesn't amount to anything. But they add up. Hold on a second. Hey, Allison, don't you think you should call your folks and let them know that this class usually runs late? You wouldn't want them to worry.
Hi, Mom.
I love cell phones. Love them. They've proven in study after study that cell phones affect you the same way that a couple shots of hard liquor do. They slow reaction time. They limit your focus. And the studies have proven that it doesn't matter whether the phone is handheld or hands-free. They're all equally dangerous.
I'm on my way home right now.
But people who would never dream about getting behind the wheel drunk have no problem using their cell phones while they drive. Anybody who does that is working for me. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you. I'm thankful for anything that takes your eyes or your mind off the road for just 2 seconds. That's all I need, 2 seconds, sometimes even less. You make enough 2-second mistakes, and I win. 60 miles per hour is 88 feet per second. Even when you're paying attention, it takes between 1 and 2 seconds for you to recognize a problem, and another second or two to react. Which means that most incidents eat up the entire length of a football field, even if you do everything perfectly. If I can take your mind off the road for even 1 extra second, that 88 feet can be huge. Just because most of those mistakes don't amount to anything, doesn't matter. My job is to help you make enough mistakes so that we have what's called the inopportune moment. Inopportune means inconvenient or untimely. And an inopportune moment isn't necessarily something that you create. But if you open the door and invite me in, well then. You're the only one to blame for that. The one time that you're glancing at your cell phone when the vehicle in the other lane blows a tire. It's not your fault that the tire blew, but it's 100% your fault that you took your eyes off the road.
Love you too, Mom. All right, bye-bye.
People always talk about luck, but when you're making dozens of mistakes all day long, you're taking luck out of the picture. Take some coworker. She's texting her friends while driving, and she gets into an accident. Surprise, surprise. And then she says, this is terrible. The officer said it was because I was texting.
But I text and drive all the time. I just had a moment of bad luck is all.
I love that. Keep telling yourself that, because the truth isn't that you had a bit of bad luck. The truth is that all of your good luck has finally run out. Almost. So here I am in the car with Allison. I've got her reciting formulas, making cell phone calls, pretty much thinking about everything except the most important job she has at the moment, the safe operation of her vehicle. You have to remember, Allison's not the only one I'm riding with today. I'm riding with almost everyone out here. But for today, the other really important driver was Oscar. Remember I said that Allison made my work so easy? Well, Oscar is a bit of a pushover himself. For one thing, working all those late night shifts, he never gets any sleep. Boy, it sure is gonna be good to get some shut-eye after this shift, huh? What did you get yesterday, 3-4 hours? He's so tired, and that by itself does great things for me. But it's all the other stuff that people do to help themselves when they feel drowsy, because the only really smart thing, pulling over, is the last thing they're gonna do. They play music real loud. Which of course takes their eyes and mind off the road. Maybe a cup of coffee will do the trick. Hey, Oscar, you don't look very alert. Have a cup of coffee. Whoa. Almost. And now you throw in the pagers beeping, the cell phones ringing, and it's like I'm the one driving these vehicles. And Allison and Oscar are just little machines cranking out a mistake every few seconds. And when a couple of those mistakes come together, well, this is one I'm especially fond of. I was driving home with this guy, and this guy was really angry. And a pickup goes flying past him on the right, which is of course bad driving. And the intelligent thing to do when on the road with a bad driver is to give him plenty of space, right? But this is what I love about anger. Anger usually pushes intelligence right out the window. So my angry friend floors it to catch up with this pickup. And on the back of it is one of those little bumper stickers. How's my driving? Call 1-800 blah, blah, blah. So I suggest to him that he should report this guy. So here's this pickup doing at least 15 over the limit, and my angry friend pulling up way too close, squinting to read all those little numbers, and then he only needs one more little nudge. I put into his head that he should report this guy right now. So he pulls out his cell phone and starts trying to enter all those numbers. Of course, later on, talking to the police, my angry friend is trying to explain that the reason the nose of his car is in the bed of the pickup is that the other guy slammed on his brakes too fast. There were no major injuries, which was a disappointment to me. But it was still a good piece of work. Anger, following too closely, staring at a bumper sticker instead of the road, using a cell phone. You people are so helpful. Anyway, back to our story. Allison is stressed out, but finally on her way to night class. Her car is now about 2 miles away from Oscar's, who's headed to another plant. 2 minutes, give or take. Hey, you're not gonna do well on your quiz if you're totally stressed out. Where's that CD you like so much that always calms you down? Now they're about 90 seconds apart. I've got to get these two together. The north side plant, the press inspections. What's the name of that street again? Is it Westway or Nestway? Boy, what crummy handwriting. Is that a W or an N? And now in Allison's car, she's found her music. Let's keep encouraging her to do things for herself. Hey, that cute guy in accounting class has been checking you out lately. You're gonna need some lipstick. Whatever you want is always in the bottom of the bag, isn't it? Keep looking. You'll find it. The road's right there. It's not going anywhere, and there's no car in front of you. And while she's adjusting the mirror, putting on her lipstick and looking at it instead of the road, we need to give one more nudge to Oscar. Wait a second. Weren't you out to the same plant 2 months ago? And the shift supervisor couldn't get his hands on the work order and it turned into this whole big thing? You don't want to go through all that again. Is this the same place? Do you still have the work order from 2 months ago? 20 seconds now. Time for the final touch. Something in Allison's car that she didn't even cause to happen. Oh, great. You don't have time to answer your phone. Just check caller ID, see who it is. Go ahead, look. Allison's eyes go to the phone. That's a second. Oscar drops his clipboard. Papers go everywhere. That's a second. The cars are about 8 seconds from one another. Oscar reaches for his papers, and it causes his truck to drift. Allison's eyes are on her phone and takes the turn too wide. Oscar glances up, knows this is bad. Another day, another dollar. I couldn't do it without you, you know. There are so many ways to keep me out of your car, and so many reasons to do it. You already know most of them. If you're tired, don't drive. If you need to check a map or your directions, wait until you can pull over. If you own a cell phone, either ignore it, or if that's too hard, turn it off before you get in the car. After all, studies have shown that drivers who talk on cell phones are as accident-prone as the ones who drive drunk. If you're going to want a particular CD or MP3 file, find it and load it before you pull out of your driveway. Don't take your eyes off the road to talk to your passengers. And don't stare at your kids in their car seats. You buckle them in, they haven't gone anywhere. Don't eat or drink while you drive. Because like I said before, driving is a dangerous full-time job with dozens of critical decisions to be made every minute. You and your ton of automobile are often covering 88 feet per second. Every time you allow your mind to wander, you're just gambling, hoping you can beat the odds. And someday, you'll gamble and lose. If you keep letting me ride along with you, then someday the inopportune moment will come. And when it does, you won't be the only one who suffers. It's really one moment that becomes a lifetime of pain and loss for a number of people. Of course, it doesn't have to be that way. Look at how the smallest adjustment can make the biggest difference. Like Allison and Oscar. Just one less mistake would have saved both their lives. Imagine Allison's cell phone being turned off. Now she doesn't hear the incoming call, so her eyes stay on the road and her car stays in her lane. She sees Oscar's truck drift, so she slows down. When he overcorrects, he comes into her lane, but it happens 73 feet further away because she slowed down. He regains control in the nick of time.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
But it didn't happen that way, did it? So you see, it would be so easy to keep me out. But you don't want to keep me out. You like me. You like your distractions. You like your cell phones, your MP3s, and your coffee. And shoot, you've been driving for years. You can take a second to fix your hair. You can't live without me. But I can promise you this. You can't live with me either. I'll see all of you real soon. Sooner than you think.
Welcome back. I'm State Representative Mario Scavello. You've just viewed Driven to Distraction, and it really opens up your eyes on how important it is to keep your hands on the wheel, your eyes forward, and your mind on what you're doing behind the wheel of that vehicle. Any distraction in that vehicle can create an accident, in many cases fatalities, especially at high speeds when you're driving in today's vehicles. Today's vehicles don't have they're not as strong as they used to be because of all the weight limitations put on by the federal government. You get into an accident, and you've seen some photos earlier what can happen, and you've seen some here also as well in the video. Niner.
If anyone would like to borrow the video, I would be very happy to let them use it for their families, if they're trying to drive home a point, or their place of business. I'd be very happy to let them use the video and borrow it for some time. And one of my concerns is, think about what you're doing when you're driving and ask yourself, when did this cell phone become more important than this life?
Thank you. And if anybody would like to contact me, Eileen Miller, I'm at 570-881-1740, and I'm also an advocate, and I'm on Facebook under Eileen, E-I-L-E-E-N Wolkers, W-O-E-L-K-E-R-S Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R, and I'm be more than happy to talk to anybody who's lost a loved one or anything about distraction. I'm sorry.
No,
But I'd be more than happy to hook them up. Like I said, I go and speak at schools. I speak all over about distracted driving, and I'd be more than happy to help them out.
Eileen, thank you.
No, thank you. I appreciate it for giving me the time to speak and do road safety. And always be safe when you're out on the road. And always be mindful when you're out there, when you're in your vehicle, of everybody around you. And think when you're out there, I want to kill somebody else, or would I want to kill myself when you're behind that wheel? Always be mindful. Turn your cell phones off when driving and all electronic devices.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you both for being part of the show. I think it's one of those shows that it's going to hit home, and hopefully people realize the importance of not to have the distractions in the vehicle. Either it be cell phones, trying to change the radio, so be careful. Be very careful.
They never think it's going to be them, but I'm proof that it is.
Yeah. That's all the time we have for today's show. If you have any questions or comments on today's show, please contact my local office. The number and information will be on the screen in a moment. Thanks again, and see you next time on Legislative Report.